Powderham Castle was built by my ancestor, Sir Philip Courtenay, at the beginning of the 14th century, and we've been living here ever since. So at the start of the Civil War, my ancestor at the time declared immediately for the king, and the castle withstood a siege by the parliamentary forces in 1643. Gradually, the course of the war altered in favour of Parliament, and the parliamentary forces returned again in the early part of 1646 and once again laid siege to the castle. The castle on that occasion held out for about 3 months, and finally in April 1646 was taken by the parliamentary forces under General Fairfax. The family's connection with the castle over the years is, of course, one of the things that makes it such a popular attraction with the visitors.
Few of Powderham's visitors, though, can be so involved with the castle's history as these campers. They've travelled from all over Britain to breathe life again into Powderham's dramatic past, to reenact a 17th century battle from the bloody Civil War, when the rebellious Roundheads fought to wrest power for Parliament from the Royalist forces of King Charles. They're men and women of the Roundhead Association and their present-day adversaries, the King's Army.
People generally are very surprised at first when you say you belong to the King's Army. If you can't persuade them to join or come along and watch a battle, then it's just one of your eccentricities and they put up with it. I joined just so that I could, just for the fun of it, to dress up, to mess about, to enjoy the companionship of people. And then I got more involved in the historical side of things, and I enjoy showing to the public a little bit more accurately what this English Civil War was like.
It's going to be an even battle, though. I've never seen so many KA in one.
Trouble whenever I cook something, by the time I've done it, I can't stand the bloody sight of it.
On the morning of a day of a battle, neither army rises particularly early, but having got over the business of having breakfast, both armies drill every morning. This involves getting all the equipment together, getting dressed in the uniform, marching out, not always onto the battlefield, but onto an adjoining field, to check over arms and equipment, to check everyone is correctly dressed, and then to go through the drill of handling the weapons.
To be a good pikeman, you should be of a sturdy build. To be too light would be little or no use at all, because you would very soon be pushed out of the way. And if there was siege to be laid or anything, he was the chap to do it. Our pikes are 16 feet long, and it takes a great deal of skill to use a pike. You can practice for many days using the point of the pike against a sack or something like that, and merely just to hit the place on the sack that you want, it is no easy job.
Occasionally you'll find someone with a genuine old piece, but they're mostly reproduction now.
In the King's Army, we've fielded about 7 to 8 pieces, I believe, on the field. They fire 2 ounces, between 2 ounces and £3 of powder, depending on the size of them. On my cannon, or on the smaller cannons, 2 ounces of black powder, and then we top them up with grass. That gives them a good bang and a lot of smoke.
You're going to get it.
We try to be authentic and think of ourselves as a real cannon crew. but I think most people just like to feel that you've got something big and it makes a lot of noise.
Right, George, slide him back on again. You're not straight to him. That's it.
Would you possibly thank you very much. Okay. Thanks a lot. Afternoon, my lord.
Lovely day for a battle.
Isn't it? Right. Maybe it's going to be a very perilous sight, isn't it? Cavalry.
It will indeed, I think, yes.
It's a good job it's not raining, though, because if those slopes were slippery, we would really have some fun tobogganing down them rather than riding down them, wouldn't we?
We'd have a job, I think, but I think the cavalry will manage well.
The role of the cavalry in the Civil War varied a great deal. To a large extent, they were the gentlemen, which is why you'll frequently find that the cavalry have slightly more extravagant costumes. Because when you went to war during the Civil War, you not only had to provide your own costume and armour, but if you were in the cavalry, you had to provide your own horse. There was also the risk of having your horse shot away underneath you, or it going lame, so you frequently went along with a valet, either riding or leading your spare horse, and indeed, being gentlemen, of course, you would often have rather more on a baggage horse as well, which might well be either another spare horse or your spare horse.
I wonder how many of the thousands of ordinary visitors who come to the castle today can possibly imagine what it would have been like 300 years ago.
The appeal for somebody who actually takes part in a battle like this is a very complicated thing. It's an escape from a modern world which some people might find boring and other people just fancy a change from. More or less you escape and you drop back 300 years in the nicest possible way. You suddenly become a law to yourselves. You're an army on somebody else's ground. You don't actually cease to obey the modern laws, but suddenly the modern laws affect you less directly. You become a more individual and self-contained group. You have your own laws to yourselves rather than the laws of a modern society you don't necessarily agree with.
The reconstruction will show the Siege of Powderham Castle, which took place during the First Civil War. It was held at the time by the Royalists and was besieged by part of the army under Sir Thomas Fairfax, who commanded the parliamentarian main field army. The siege was fairly small on a national level, but was just part of the many colourful incidents which took place throughout the country during the war, which lasted from 1642 to 1648.
Authenticity is probably the most important factor of one of our battles. It changes the whole thing from a sort of group of people being extremely silly and messing about for a weekend to a group of people who are trying to do something serious and historical.
The whole army would march slowly. As they got closer, the cavalry would attack each wing. They would try to rout the opposing wing so that they could wheel round into the side of the centre, which was the foot bodies. They went in at point of pike with the object literally of skewering the opposition.
The 17th century battle was dominated by the fact that people had to be close to kill each other.
Once it started to crumble, they were finished. They started to lose discipline, the officers couldn't control them, and eventually they would run. Once you'd made a regiment run, you'd gained a bit of ground in the battlefield. You were slowly starting to push them off the battlefield, and you held that ground.
One of the main reasons we fight the English Civil War and battles like this one is to bring to people's attention the importance of this civil war in Britain's history. This country completely changed. It changed from a medieval system of government to nearly its modern degree of parliamentarian control of the whole country. It was when this country had one of the first proper military coup d'etats of history. It was close-quarter slaughter. The musketeers, their weapons wouldn't carry further than about 150 yards, and he certainly couldn't aim at anything over about 40 or 50. He was best at killing if he actually got down to about 20 yards. They were nearly touching each other when they fought it out.
When the cannons were originally used, the small field pieces would be down on the plain if there was enough room to weave in and out to get up close to the enemy, and then once they've discharged their firepower, they would retreat. Larger pieces would be kept right at the rear because they were valuable in respect that if they were captured, they could be used against you, and you wouldn't wish those things to happen. Well, when we fire the cannons, we start off in the procedure of loading. We place 2 ounces of black powder down the muzzle, and then we ram that home with light taps because otherwise the powder would blow out through the touch hole. We put down 4 or 5 handfuls of grass, and then we really ram that home. If no one's in the way, we fire.
The muskets used in the Civil War were mainly matchlock muskets and relatively easy to use. They wouldn't aim at any specific target, any specific person. They would just fire at the opposing block of musketeers.
What do you think of the performance of our musketeers?
They did a fine display of musketeer fire up there. I saw one regiment practically decimated.
Yes, utterly, yes. But I must say, I think they've done a pretty good show this time.
I think they have. Where are they now? I can't quite...
We're getting far stronger. They're yonder, just beyond those spikes. I think you can see them...
They're coming back now,
They're firing at the moment, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I must say...
I don't know if they can hold the line.
Well, I think they can. They're certainly holding it bravely at the moment.
I think they'll be on the barricade soon.
Things do look a little bit weak over on the right.
They do, yeah.
Well, they've pushed back our musketeers and they're driving forward, as you can see, but we intend to hold this village. You will see we've a very strong artillery position here, and we think we may allow them forward. We shall then drive back this crop-headed crew, who've heard they've roused themselves up. It's a mixture of Bible thumping and alcohol, but it's no proof against the mettle of our West Countrymen.
We cannot recreate the impression of 500 horses thundering against each other. In those circumstances, the horse at the front is very unlikely to stop, and you could drive him into the foot quite easily. The way we do it, unfortunately, most of the driving force and the effort has to come from the rider on top, and it's a great deal less easy. Their real role during the course of the battle would come once the enemy was routed. They would charge after the enemy, they would cut them down, they would capture them, and increase their wealth by plenty of rape and pillage.
Get this line straight! Come on!
I think the exhilaration of charging flat out on a horse under very difficult conditions, with the feeling that others are with you, the wind in your ears, the flag flying, the bang, the horse falters, and still you go on. It's very exciting.
Objective!
We're trying to take the castle at the moment, but first of all, we've got to take their barricades, which are down here.
Norfolks and Felix have got their hands full up on the ridge.
Got their hands full?
Yeah, we've got Joseph.
Who have we got that we can pull out over here? There seems to be a lot of people over here.
There were certain regiments that were fortunate enough to have sharpshooters or marksmen, and these would be in prominent positions in the battle to shoot the opposing officers and important ranks in the army.
We keep our women with us for a variety of reasons. In the 17th century, they were a very important part of the warfare in the sense that they did a sort of mopping up operation, following their troops into battle, collecting the wounded, performing very poor first aid and doing what they could for their own men. And they also did a fair amount of pillaging of troops who were already dead, because very often a regiment would be very ill-equipped if it had been campaigning for a good few months. And if a woman whose husband, perhaps his boots worn out, found a dead body on the field with a pair of good boots on, she'd lift them and take them for her husband.
Although we're fairly free sometimes about what happens during the centre of a battle, and a defeated army might look for a long, long time like it's winning, at the end of it, we always have to observe history. If a castle was taken, then it has to be taken in again for our purposes.
The most likely form of attack will be an initial approach by a small force from the Roundhead main army to reconnoitre our defences and see how prepared we are. Once they have ascertained our state of defence, I'm sure they will bring their main body up with heavy siege guns with which they will hope to make a breach in our walls.
Some people say we're just playing at soldiers, that we're messing about, we've never grown up. Well, to us that's not really a fair criticism. What we're doing is an attempt to reenact a part of history. It's not really a child's game. We work too hard at it for it to be a mere game of soldiers. Too many people spend too much time actually trying to get the thing right for it to be a real children's game.
It's a war of Englishmen against Englishmen, and there is a great deal of romance attached to it and a great deal of sadness because families were fighting against families in the 17th century. Brother was fighting brother.
I think if the trumpet had sounded and the call had come in the 17th century, I don't think any one of us would have been slow to join up.